The power of symbolization, the eighth power, the word, the power that fells and raises. So first we can begin to talk about 8. What is 8? 8 interweaves 2 and 4 to create pulsing cycles. And these are pulsing cycles of unity and expansion, unity and expansion, unity and expansion. There's an Egyptian creation myth that says, I am 1 that transforms into 2. I am 2 that transforms into 4. I am 4 that transforms into 8. After that, I am 1 again. That's a mystery worth pondering. Because the 8 can divide everything and bring it all back together. 8's the octad. And in the time of Pythagoras, 8 was conceptualized as perpetual movement from the potential into the actual and back again. So this contentual, that infinity, the infinity. And 8 also refers to the cyclic law of cause and effect. 8 divides and it reunites and it balances the force of opposites. Feel free to interject anything at any time. Yes. Okay, so for humans and the cosmological power of symbolization, 8 involves conscious action. 8 is the power in which personal, collective, and universal actions are coded and stored. So 8 is the place where we hold things and remember them. We remember them. And remembering, we can create further codes, symbols, and systems by which to move forward. So it keeps creating new levels within itself, this 8. 8 ultimately winds up in a space of remembering the future, which is where we are right now. We are remembering the future. The universe, now when we go to visionary cosmology, the universe codes its experience. The universe retains and learns. For example, atoms retain their basic structure and the memory of their structure, and they have from the very beginning of the universe. They know what they're supposed to do and who they are. Atoms remember how to combine into molecules, and molecules remember how to combine into larger formations. And this is the nature of the universe. It's a coding process. It's a process by which the universe codes and remembers itself and its functioning and what to do. In organic matter, DNA is the code. DNA is our code. Life on Earth symbolizes and records its experience with or via DNA. DNA molecules are located in living cells, and they contain the genetic code and transmit hereditary patterns. The DNA molecule carries coded instructions for a particular cell's functioning, and there are all different kinds of cells, like nerve cells, hair cells, and that's encoded in the DNA in that particular cell. And all the DNA molecules of an organism taken together form the story of that organism. When a cell replicates itself, as cells are continually doing, the DNA in the daughter cell becomes slightly modified. It is not an exact replica. So the DNA is always slightly shifting, slightly changing with each daughter cell. These are just things to think about. Maybe the whole universe operates by a symbolic code that we have yet to discover, such as DNA, which contains the memory of creation maintenance, alteration, destruction, and recreation. We do know that each human organism carries a complex operating system, which includes the power to create symbols specific to the species. We communicate with symbols, and this organism that I am creates these symbols. We all do, and this is the way that we work together. These symbols have the power to create, to maintain, to alter, to destroy, and recreate human consciousness. And we are in the business of that. The human symbolic code has the power to create, maintain, destroy, and recreate the enveloping environment. So we can do this on any level, with each other, in a family, with each other, in a social and moral and political order. We're continually moving it with our symbolic systems, and because we are not like a geologic force, we are a geologic force. We are continually shaping our environment via our process of coding. How we're going to code it actually creates the exact environment that we inhabit. So I want to talk for a minute. I want to read out of Visionary Cosmology the individual power of symbolization, because this is our greatest power as a species. And this is probably the most important power that we are studying. In fact, in the Lightning Papers, the final, the quote, the final is, and if you do that final, you're going to get honors for this class. The final is about looking at the power of symbolization and comparing it to all the other powers. How does it work with all of the other powers? The 1, the 2, the 3. It becomes really, really fascinating. Okay, so the individual power of symbolization. Humans are born with the potential to learn and embrace any language, religion, or culture. As we become socialized and educated, our consciousness is shaped. Through immersing in the universe, both symbolic and real, we become, quote, knowers of the field. We begin to understand the pan-original field of the universe in general and human culture and consciousness in particular. We enter into an understanding of conditions and possibilities. We begin to realize we ourselves are the creators of the cultural mythos around, through, and by which our personal and collective lives are organized. We are creating that. It is not apart from us. We create it every day. We begin to realize that the mythos changes. We begin to realize that the story of our lives, both individually and collectively, is inherently alive. The story is alive. Each of us is born into a complex story that was in progress before we arrived and will continue after we are gone. I use quotes on before we arrived and after we are gone because, as we have seen, the energy and substance of which we're composed has been combining and recombining since the beginning of our universe, even as it will continue to combine and recombine after our very particular personal identity ceases to exist. Further, each of us, as we have seen, is absolutely unique. You are a unique concentration of energy and substance, and given your ability to reflect upon your experience, you hold a unique perspective. That's the power of centration that we've talked about. It could be said that you are the state-of-the-art universe in progress, a complex conscious entity of space-time at the cutting edge of its own existence. It could be said that you are a seed of intelligent design with the capacity to respond to the synergistic situation in which you find yourself. And by your own particular actions, you are creating the synergistic constitution of the future. By participating with the power of symbolization, you can communicate effectively with others to define and create reality. Your designs, your art, your music, your mathematical proofs, your stories are all ways you use the power of symbolization to code reality and move reality in the human world. The symbols you choose to employ, or the symbols you create, are so important. You can not only alter your environment by using them, but you can alter the future of the human endeavor and the species itself. Since humans are a geologic force on Earth, this means when the future of humanity is altered, the future of the whole Earth community is altered as well. And Earth community means all the species and all the environmental factors that exist together on this planet. So why would we want to become proficient with this power of symbolization? Why would we want to do this? And I say it's, first of all, it's to seek meaning. You know, to find our meaning. We are always being influenced by all the symbols around us. And these symbols bring the meaning into our lives. That's how we gain the meaning in our lives, is through these symbols. We are seeking to remember who we are and where we came from. But for us in particular, I think we do want to remember that, we do want to understand that, and we do understand that through symbols, but also we are in the business of seeking the future. So we need those symbols to find where we want to move to in the future. We are seeking to remember how to create the future. That's what we are trying to do right now. From our materials in Terra Nova, I also want to read a little bit of the introduction here. The Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad, having witnessed or experienced grave hardship, sought truth and received answers. All three in visionary quests that led to enlightenment and liberation. The Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, vowing not to move until he understood. Jesus entered the desert. Muhammad went into the cave. Each traveled deeply into extreme darkness and boundless light. Each faced himself, his deep truth, and entered into a transformational conversation with the divine. The key for each was listening. Eventually, a major world religion would grow out of each of their intentional journeys, as each began to articulate the teachings received. Our own quest, even like the quest of these great beings, is to seek with intention, and then to try the best we can to articulate the teaching or teachings we receive. We articulate the message through words and deeds. Being able to articulate the message is as important as receiving the message. Articulation is an art, as indicated by its root. Art means extension. It is close to the word arm. The root is the same. Art is an extension, an outward expression of the heart, of the soul, of the spirit, of the mind, of the body. One way articulation happens is through the word. A word is a symbolic and literal vibration. The word symbolizes or points to something in or about the cosmos. The word, sounded or written, is a vibration that carries the power to create, to maintain, and to destroy. The word is central to being human. By the word, we dissolve and resolve. Giving our word is an act of faith, trust, belief, honor, and sincerity. That is why knowing the self is so important. And one way we know ourselves is through words. The Buddha may have sat beneath the Bodhi tree and he may have received visions, But had he not tried to articulate what he experienced, Buddhism would not have been born. In the same way, we ourselves are born and reborn through the power of words. The right words are not necessarily easy to come by. In a plethora of flooding words, the power of the symbol can easily be lost. But right words, well chosen, define and direct the course of life and history. The question is, how do we find the right words? The ones we might know ourselves by, the ones we might live by. I ask these questions because when we're in the midst of a mystical experience, we may not be able to find words to capture what we feel. Words contain. If we can't find the words, we may lose the essence. Words limit also. By trying to contain something vast in two small words, we can lose the essence also. Thus, the power of the paradox is not lost on us. Right? The words limit us and they also free us. From inside the paradox of words and not words, here is a bit of my own experience. First of all, when I'm inside the mystery and something I want to remember happens, I feel I need to find the right words. Words not only contain, but they create memory for future reference. Words have the power to code experience. And once we have the code, we can move from there. When I'm inside the mystery, however, what I experience often has no equivalent in human words. It's so hard to capture the mystical experience. I very often feel I'm a translator, translating vague images between worlds. I try very hard to hear, and then I try to record. The best way I can record is to write in the best words I can find. Writing takes my experience to a far deeper level. Generally, I don't really know what I think until I try to write it down. When I write it down, I can remember, I can code, and I can use the newly discovered meaning in a new starting place, as a new starting place. I can begin to go even deeper into the mystery. Coding in words helps me to keep consciousness alive and flowing and growing. This is a very personal experience for me. It's about seeking and receiving teachings that help me deepen my meaning, my purpose, and my sense of efficacy in the world. Then, engaging in self-expression becomes critical to the experience of liberation. When I can express my deepest truth, I know I am free. For me, self-expression equals liberty. Of course, there may be consequences to engaging in an act of liberation, but if the love for self and others is strong enough, that in and of itself becomes our greatest protection. As they say, love is the only true protection. All other forms of protection eventually lead to war. That being said, here is a story of the Word, another story that led up to my ordination. When I entered the ICAW seminary, I was completely in agreement with the 10-point belief system under which the church was organized. And after spending 5 years in the seminary, and because of the very excellent studies undertaken therein, and because of the 2 weeks I spent in meditation just prior to my ordination, and upon emerging therefrom, I realized I no longer believed in the 10-point belief system. So, to begin with, each statement of the belief system began with, "We believe." By the end of my studies, I believed very strongly in unity. Even the phrase, "we believe," now seemed divisive. Further, in my deep meditation and upon review of all we had studied, in addition to all I'd been through prior in this life and past lives, I found that my life was leading up to something other than the, quote, group values articulated by the church. I tried to write down what was important to me personally, beginning with I believe. I believe, not we believe, but I believe. I stared at the I believe and that began to feel divisive to me also, just as divisive. It seemed to divide me from my own self, because I had learned that what I believe today, 5 years hence, with more experience and presumably more wisdom, may be different than today. I tried again, using various introductory phrases, finally settling on, I honor, which meant to me, this is something I honor today, not something I will carve in stone for the future. Still, it became an important takeoff point, like the runway I would lift off from as I flew to my ordination. After 5 years in the seminary, I had come to understand myself in a way I could articulate. I was very, very grateful for the experience. But then trepidation set in. The act of self-expression, of liberation, I increasingly realized would not be without consequences. Because if I no longer believed in the church principles, how could I be ordained with the church? I had come to understand my truth. I had written my truth. Now I would have to live my truth, regardless of the fallout. And this is the way I wrote it. Code of the Radiant Heart. I honor the wonder of life and believe life is sacred. I honor the individual's direct experience and interpretation of the sacred. I honor deep contemplation of the meaning of personal and collective life and believe that such reflection is essential to attaining a balanced individual and social state of being. I honor considered and conscientious understanding, thought, speech, and action. I honor and celebrate diversity in lifestyle and perception. I honor perspectives that unify and integrate. I honor empathy and kindness. I honor nonviolent approaches to conflict resolution. I honor the simple, natural, creative, and responsible life which does not harm or endanger others or the earth. I honor the equality of all. Well, as it turns out, this story had a good ending. Trembling, I met with the Archbishop. I told her of my problem. I showed her my new code, the one I felt I could be ordained with. And upon hearing my concerns, she threw back her head and laughed. "Of course you will be ordained, Pamela," she said. "You are the future." I was ordained. I was ordained inside the mystery with my own mystical terms. It was one of the most powerful experiences of my life, if not the most powerful. The word, the ability to capture and form consciousness, is human understanding and human power. The Bible, John 1, chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being by him, and apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the dark shines upon the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. What is the word if not a vibration? A sound of vibration that fells and raises. And here I would like to mention the tarot card, the Tower, which is a vibration that fells and raises. The Hebrew word assigned to the tower is called Peh, P-E-H, which means mouth, word, or voice. And it's called the voice of God. Okay, so I want to read you just a little bit out of Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit about the tower. Okay. Okay, just one moment. I have things falling out of my book. Okay. May inner hear. This is the poem that leads into the tower. May inner hearing open to reveal the vibration of the sacred word, the word by which all is created, sustained, destroyed, the sacred vibration at the heart of moved and unmoved alike. May the voice of the sacred be in me and with me, and may that sacred voice sing out as the vibratory power of love. May I know that love is the word. Love binds, maintains, and destroys to heal. I'm choosing that. I am choosing that vibration. The tower is called the activating or exciting intelligence. In astrology, it's Mars. The color is red. And it's in this lightning flash that we see in the tower. It's the lightning flash that takes everything down and also at the same time reveals the whole picture at once. As lightning comes in, and that which is dark is suddenly illuminated. The lightning flash. And with the particular position of the tower on the tree of life, the tower, it moves between sphere 7 and sphere 8. So sphere 7 is a sphere of transmutation, the vision quest, the seeking, and the 8 is the finding and the naming and the knowing. So the tower actually polarizes and connects those two. The 8 is the reasoning as well. It's the reasoning. Okay, and I want to mention my experiments with sound around the tower. As I was studying the tower and learning more about the tower, I played a constant tone, like let's say a note, like C, a C tone, right, on a keyboard, on an electronic keyboard, so I could sustain the tone, and then over the speaker I put a piece of wax paper and salt, right, and then play the C. Were you there?
I was there.
Okay, it's so fascinating. Play the C. Okay, fine. So start to play the C, and what happens is all the salt jumps up in the air because it experiences, whoa, here's the sound coming through. And it bounces. All the salt bounces. But then as the C is sustained, it starts to go into a form until it completely stops. And the form looks like a letter or a sacred symbol or something like that. It's amazing. Okay, so you wait till the whole thing stops and moves into a form, then switch the tone. A. Everything jumps up. Again, and it's all jumping around. And then it takes about, for it to really come into a completely still form, it's about 3 minutes. And then it comes into a still form, which looks like another letter. So you can keep going with this. And I took pictures of this and what forms were created. But every time the tone shifted, everything was destroyed and then reconciled again, reconvened again. Knowing that the word, which is a sound and a vibration, can do that, has the power to throw all the pieces up in the air. And then they'll come down and they'll recongeal based on a new vibration. Knowing that, I return again to the idea that for me, and this is a choice, the word is going to be love. For me, love means the unitive consciousness. You can operationalize it in a lot of different ways, but I'm going to call it right now the unitive consciousness. The unitive consciousness for me means reverence. And knowing this, I can take that word and that idea and I could symbolize it with a heart too, just a little heart. That means love, a little heart. And then what I can do with that is I can take that heart and toss it into the human arena, or that word and toss it into the human arena and just sit back and watch what happens. And that is the power of symbolization. And that is the business all of us are in.